I come to you again for some reflections on the exams you just did. I'm doing this because of a few calls I have had trying to get a feedback from the class as to how the exams went. I have heard a lot. However, I can speak to only what I teach and the content that I delivered to you and the assessment I wanted to have as far as the lectures and the videos I gave you were concerned. As to whether the lectures met expectations, and for that matter, the questions that appeared in your exams, as to whether you're able to do them and whether the teaching and the videos and all the guidelines I gave you helped or not. Surprisingly, I was in the exams hall, and when the first batch finished, one student right in the exams hall, I think, was so disappointed, and I was like, "Sir, why? Why?" And I asked him, "What is the meaning of why?" He said all the things he learned didn't appear. And I was shocked, and I said, "What? You didn't even see any anatomy question?" He said, "No, he didn't see any anatomy question." And I was alarmed because I know I have submitted questions. And one thing about teaching and learning is that once you are taught something and you have spent time learning, you need to be examined on those things. And as a student, you feel good when you're able to remember some of the things that were said in the lectures and all. That makes you feel good. So when he said he didn't see any anatomy questions, I was alarmed. So I asked another student just close by, a lady, and she said she saw anatomy questions and they were good, and that calmed me down. So the guy actually asked that same girl, is she sure she saw anatomy questions? So because of that, I decided to find out whether the questions I submitted were actually part of the exams you wrote. And indeed, all the 10 questions I submitted were featured. So there was no excuse at all. And because of that, I have actually painstakingly, brought some of these questions here for discussion and for us to also appreciate the fact that when you attend lectures and you listen to lecturers, it should be able to pay off. Okay, so did the questions cover the scope? So this is an exercise that is going to help all of us improve upon the examinations. Okay, did the guidance help? Did the lectures help? And did the videos also help? So these were the systems we covered. It was only the last two which were together as one system, the musculoskeletal, okay? And then in addition, integumentary system, which is not appearing here. So if we count everything here, we are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because this is together, plus integumentary system. That would be like 7 systems we covered in all. If my counting is not right, the maximum we might have gone will be 8. But from what I can deduce from this, we did 7 systems, or basically 8. So let's look at the representation of the questions as to whether it covered what I taught. So one of the questions that appeared was, the pilosebaceous apparatus consists of all the following except, so you can see here I put integumentary 1, which means that I tried to ensure that there was representation for all the systems we covered. And this was a slide which I presented in the class as a lecture and also a video. And I remember telling you about the pilosebaceous apparatus and the members, sebaceous gland, the hair, and arrector pili muscle. This is in your notes in the videos. The very first day we had a lecture in the SMS auditorium, we did GI, or the digestive system. And on the large intestine, I remember telling you that this large intestine, the transverse portion, can be divided into three main portions. And that go and find out which of the portions belong to the mid gut and which belong to the hind gut. And when I'm teaching and I tell you to listen to me, I know what I am doing. You see, I cannot force things into your head. I can only direct and guide. And if you listen to me, you'll be fine, as I always say. So those who remember and those who are in that first class, we said that we are dividing this into three. We did a similar thing to the esophagus. And I told you to go and find out. So based on that, and based on this slide also, which also appeared in the video and the lectures, which gave you this branch of the abdominal aorta and how they supply the foregut, midgut, and hindgut. So you can see that the celiac is for foregut structures, the midgut here, the superior mesenteric is for midgut structures, and then the inferior mesenteric is for hindgut structures. This very transverse colon is what can be divided into three portions, and then you have the proximal two becoming part of the midgut, and then the distal one will join the hindgut. I even remember a student commented on one of the videos and said that why is the transverse colon located in the hindgut? Because he knows that some portions are for the foregut, the midgut, and some for the hindgut. And I explained to him that yes, but because the way this diagram looks like, if you tell somebody that it is belonging to the midgut, for instance, and the person may not understand. And that is why the first lecture, I asked that question and we all discussed in class that this can be divided into three portions. And if I want you to look at the blood supply, for instance, you can see that this superior mesenteric, which is supplying the midgut, looking at it critically, you can see that a portion of it is branching towards the transverse colon, the proximal portion of it. And then the inferior mesenteric here is supplying the distal portion of the same transverse colon. So this is proximal 2/3, and then this is distal 1/3, which means that the distal 1/3 is supplied by inferior mesenteric, proximal 2/3 by what? Superior mesenteric. So if you look here, the inferior vena cava and superior vena cava, both of them can be called vena cava. They are bringing blood from the system, the body parts, into the right atrium. So that is also a body part. Systemic, the right atrium. Once the blood comes from the left, the right ventricle, it is supplying the lungs. So that becomes a pulmonary kind of circulation. And when you come to the left side of the heart too, you have both pulmonary and then systemic. So the blood coming from the lungs is pulmonary. So that's pulmonary vein. Coming into the left atrium, still is a pulmonary circulation because it has not gone into the system yet. The system will mean every other organ apart from the lungs. But when the left ventricle contracts and pumps blood, it will go to the aorta and then into the systemic circulation again. So that is how basic it is. You can easily work this out. Then you have the systemic ones being the vena cava and then the aorta. All right, then you can do for the chambers as well. So I remember showing you this diagram, and then we explained or learned that the conducting airways ends at the bronchus, a portion called the terminal bronchus. I even remember saying that it is not written, but that is what it is. Then here is the respiratory portion with this diagram, and told you that is dorsal and that is ventral. And I even remember saying that the pseudo unipolar neuron is at the dorsal, and then multipolar neuron is in the ventral. The muscle that causes like the seat belt in a car is known as dash muscle. This is a question also that I gave a clue. And in fact, in my last lecture in class, I remember telling you that there's one person that I have not verbally mentioned the name. Apart from that, every question I'm going to ask you, I have spoken to you about them in a way. So that was that particular person. However, even after saying that in class, I went back to do a video, okay, and then pointed at the muscle here and then asked, what type of muscle is this? It straps like a seat belt. It is in your video. So for those who are even doubting that this video ever existed, this is one of the videos on the slides I gave you, on the teaching slides. And so I've taken a snapshot. When you look at that video on GEM Access Course, lecture slide 4, Musculoskeletal, you will see that at 1 minute 48 seconds, the whole video was 2 minutes. This is what it is there. So if you're a student and then a lecturer asks a question and you won't go and look for it even after giving you clues. How many cervical spinal nerves are there in the human body? We covered this as well. And remember telling you that the cervical vertebrae are 7, but the spinal nerves are 8 because of how the nerves exit. Okay? They exit above the vertebra there. So when you count it, it becomes actually 8. All right? While the rest will be passing through the intervertebral canals. On reproductive system, I asked all the following are types of urethra except that urethra. Again in class, we discussed this, and you were even in consonance with me. You even were answering some of them when I pointed with my pointer on the diagram. You mentioned penile urethra, prostatic urethra, and I mean, if one is found at the bulbous portion, how are you going to respond? So that is it. So prostatic urethra, and you have the bulbous urethra here, and then you have the penile urethra. There's a question on the renal system. The intralobular artery of the kidney is also known as the dash. On this one too, I emphatically mentioned it in the video when I was explaining ultrafiltration. I mentioned that this is interlobular artery, and you also have intralobular artery, which is also known as the afferent arteriole. Even though the intralobular is not written, I mentioned it severally. How many horns has the gray matter of the spinal cord? I asked this person in class, and it appeared. And even some people reached out to me before the exams, trying to find out, because there are also lateral horns. So some of them were even saying there were 6. I explained to them that generally there are 4. The 6, which is the pair of the lateral horns, only appear in the thoracic region. Okay, and so the question and even the options that appear will tell you which answer to choose. So this was not ambiguous at all because 6 was not part of the options. So the best shot is 4, which is the general, number of horns in most part of the spinal cord. So that is that. We have the 2 ventral and then 2 dorsal. Okay, that is a lateral horn when you're looking at the thoracic portion.